He messed it all up. He messed it up. The most dangerous man in history, the most dangerous president we've ever had. The man who supposedly was going to start World War III just messed it all up. He told the Israelis not to bomb Iran. How are you ever going to start World War III if you're telling the Israelis, don't do it? It's so weird. I don't get it at all. This from the New York Times, which again, you should never really believe the New York Times, but if you're going to believe the New York Times, you should believe them when they report on things that are, well, most likely true. And Donald Trump trying to avert World War III by interfering or intervening with Israel's plan to bomb the you-know-what out of them. It's probably an accurate depiction. What's up? This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. So excited to have you here. So excited to have you watching. Thank you so much for doing so. And we got a lot going on today, man. First of all, Donald Trump has had it with the Fed, man. Donald Trump is fed up. See what I did there? That's a joke. I've been using that joke for a year. That's not a new joke. That's not a new joke at all, but he's fed up. He's fed up with Jerome Powell. He's fed up with the inflation. He's fed up with basically everything, and he wants it all done. He's like, look, now the guy's trying to fight me on tariffs, which if you want to get on Donald Trump's, see what I did there? If you want to get on Donald Trump's bad side, all you have to do is fight him on tariffs. If you want to get on Donald Trump's bad side, all you have to do is say his economic policy is going to cause more inflation instead of actually doing what it's going to do, which is help the United States of America become less dependent on, your money and taxes. It's pretty fun. It's so funny. I've been making some notes. What I've been doing is I've created this little notebook, right, of ideas and, just random ideas. If in case ever I found myself running for Congress or in Congress, just thoughts and, putting together, because here's the thing, and I'm not saying I'm running for Congress, but if you run for Congress, you need to have some kind of platform. You need to have an agenda. You need to have a policy. You need to have, people are going to be like, all right, so you're running for, what are your campaign promises going to be? What's your political platform? So I've been kind of going through and I've been making a lot of notes and I've been studying, what the current guy is doing, which is basically here are my notes on what John Rutherford's doing as my congressman. Here's all the notes. Look, these are the notes. Here's some more. There's pages and pages of notes about what, and by the way, if you're listening to the podcast, they're all just blank pages. But one of the things that I noticed here, I started making some quotes, and one of my favorite quotes is from Calvin Coolidge. And Calvin Coolidge said, collecting more taxes than is absolutely necessary is legalized robbery, which is 100% accurate. And how many times does the United States government collect more taxes than it is absolutely necessary? All the time. The reason you get a tax refund, you know why? Because the federal government took more of your money than was absolutely necessary. Tax refunds, I see people celebrating their tax refunds. Woohoo! Got a tax refund. Yes, my refund came in. Do not be excited that you got a tax refund. If you got a tax refund, what that means is the government took money from you that they weren't entitled to. The government took money from you that they didn't actually need. The government was like, you know what? We may or may not spend this money. We're just going to take it from you up front. And if at the end of the day we decide not to use it, then we'll return it to you. But only if you prove that you deserve to have it back. It's a messed up system. You're basically loaning the government money interest-free. They're not paying any interest on that. If there were a system in place where tax refunds came with interest earned and paid to you by the government, that'd be something to celebrate. Although it really wouldn't, because it's still basically just robbery. So taxes in and of themselves are a horrible idea. And that's what the government does. They take money from you. They take more than they actually need. And then at the end of the day, after you've done a lot of paperwork and paid H&R Block or somebody or TurboTax or somebody else, money, you basically spent money trying to get your money back that the government shouldn't have taken from you in the first place, because as Calvin Coolidge said, they're taking more than is absolutely necessary. And President Donald Trump wants to get rid of that. He wants to get rid of that with tariffs and other processes. And he wants to cut inflation and curb all these deficits. And he wants to make sure that our economy is stable. And in doing so, he's getting a lot of flack from people who, guess what, make a living off of inflation. Really, that's the thing. They make a living off of inflation. And we'll get to that here in just a minute. We'll tell you what Donald Trump posted on Truth Social. We'll tell you what's going on with Jerome Powell. We'll tell you if that's going to happen. Also, how Donald Trump averted World War III with a phone call to Benjamin Netanyahu. There was something that happened. There was an active shooter at FSU, Florida State University, home of the Seminoles, which is actually right down the road, not very far from us at all. And I've been kind of monitoring that. Kind of took my attention away right before the beginning of the show. So I have been kind of monitoring that and seeing what's been going on. It looks like there's 4 victims, and I don't even know if the shooter is in custody yet. There's some pretty graphic footage coming up on X. At least 4 people reportedly injured at Florida State University, where a mass shooting has occurred in Tallahassee. First responders can be seen carrying victims out. Police are seen running with guns. This is a developing situation. This was 15 minutes ago. So we'll see what happens now. It looks like, let's see what's happening. Reporting on the ground says multiple victims. One individual was reportedly shackled to a stretcher by law enforcement. So hopefully if there's someone shackled to a stretcher, there's some graphic photos. So we're not going to get into any of that. But anyway, we're looking at what's going on at FSU, and we're trying to follow the information as well. But that is Florida State University in Tallahassee, and we will, like I said, I'm kind of monitoring that in the back of my mind, because I get a lot of friends that go there, a lot of friends who have kids that go there, and we want to make sure that everyone's okay. Also, we're always curious as to what the motivation of the shooter is. We want to make sure that it's well, not politically motivated. Well, we'll just, anyway, like I said, I'll bring you updates if that pops up. In addition to that, though, there's also really just crazy zaniness and wildly inappropriate behavior in the Democrat Party about this what's his name? Garcia guy, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who, I mean, if I never knew who this guy was, I'd be happy. But now all of a sudden he's become a pawn in a game of chess that the Democrats, they might as well just forfeit right now. They might as well lay their king down right this second, because they're going to lose. They're already losing. They're all losers. This whole ridiculous stunt that Senator Van Hollen pulled by going to El Salvador, where he didn't get a chance to meet with the prisoner in question, with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Didn't get a chance to meet with him because they're like, who are you? Senator who? Why would we allow you to meet with a prisoner in a prison? Why would we pull one of our prisoners out of, and this is a maximum security prison where they hold terrorists and gang members and murderers and thugs. Why would we pull a guy out of there to meet with you? We don't even know who you are. We're not really even sure where Maryland is. So you're nobody to us. And then he asked to meet with the president, who was out of the country at the time. So he met with the vice president. And the vice president basically gave him no information. It was a big, huge wasted trip. It was an idiotic thing to do. And all that Van Hollen did was show Americans what we already do. And that is that the Democrats care more about illegal immigrant murderer thugs than they do about their own citizens. And that was evident yesterday in the press briefing at 4:30. Now, the press briefing usually happens about 1 o'clock, whatever, but there was a special press briefing. We all got word of it late in the day. And Caroline Levitt and the communications department, they sent out information saying there's going to be a special press briefing today. And here is what happened. Patty Morin, whose daughter was killed in Maryland, a Maryland resident, a Maryland constituent, a constituent of Senator Van Hollen, she had her daughter killed by an illegal immigrant. The illegal murderer shoved her like in a drain. It was really, you've heard the story. It's horrible. Just beat her and defiled her. It was just awful. And Caroline Levitt said, we're going to have a special guest. And it was Patty Morin, who was the girl's mother. And she came in, and Caroline Levitt introduced her to everybody at the press briefing.
It's appalling and sad that Senator Van Hollen and the Democrats applauding his trip to El Salvador today are incapable of having any shred of common sense or empathy for their own constituents and our citizens. Nobody knows this more than the woman standing to my right, Patty Morin, whose beautiful daughter Rachel was brutally maimed and murdered at the hands of an illegal alien in August of 2023. Patty no longer has her daughter because of the failed Democrat Party's open border, and these are policies that President Trump is bringing an end to. Patty should not have to be here today, but she is, and we are grateful and we are honored for her willingness and her request to share her powerful story with the world.
All right, now I should clarify something here because I want to make sure there's no confusion here. Rachel Morin was killed by an illegal alien, criminal, gang member, thug, murderer, terrible, horrible person. Not by the guy who is being debated about, or who Chris Van Hollen is trying to get out of prison. They're two separate illegal criminal aliens. But Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is the guy they're trying to bring back in the country, is just a foil for what happened. So Patty Morin is there, and she's there talking about her daughter Rachel, who was killed by somebody in a very similar situation to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, in the country illegally, gang member. I mean, that's basically all you need to know. And they both live in Maryland. And Chris Van Hollen, who's the senator, really ignored the whole Rachel Morin story, ignored Patty Morin, paid no mind to it, did nothing to quell their fears or to help them mourn their loss, did absolutely nothing. And now he's making a big, hairy, stinking deal about saving an illegal criminal thug alien who is in a prison in El Salvador, which, let's face it, is where the guy belongs. And so Patty Morin had some words about Chris Van Hollen that she made at the press briefing yesterday afternoon.
To have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren? I don't understand this.
Nobody understands it. No, well, I mean, it's Trump derangement syndrome. It's this weird social, it's virtue signaling. It's bizarre. It's a weird thing. But you're right. Chris Van Hollen is working diligently to help somebody who's not even a citizen of the United States of America. And fun fact, has also broken several laws here in the United States of America. Chris Van Hollen is fighting for that guy who can't even vote for him because he's illegal. And if he did vote for him, well, that would be a whole other issue. That's what's happening with Chris Van Hollen in Maryland. That's what's happening with the Democrat Party, because the other Democrats, like that idiot from Orlando, what's his name? Maxwell Frost. Oh, this guy. You know why they call him Maxwell Frost? Because every time he opens his mouth, I just feel frosty. I just like, what a tool that guy is. He's out there going, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah. Go to El Salvador. Bring this guy home. Meanwhile, El Salvador's like, who? Chris Van who? I'm sorry. We don't. Park's closed, folks. Moose out front should have told you. And the fact of the matter is, they're trying to make this guy out to be an innocent victim too. They're like, he's a Maryland dad. He's a Maryland man. He's not. He's an illegal alien. And not only that, but nobody wants this guy in the country. I hope you understand that. Nobody wants this guy in the country. The Republicans don't want him in the country. The courts already said that he can be deported. He doesn't need to be in the country. El Salvador is like, we don't even want him in our country. We're going to throw him in prison. Nobody wants this guy in the country. And I know that because there was a CNN poll about illegal immigrants in the wake of this whole Kilmar Abrego Garcia mess. And Chris Van Hollen flying all over Tarnation trying to rescue him and bring him back home. And people, CNN had a poll and they said, hey, what do you guys think about deporting all of the illegal immigrants? What do you guys think about deporting all illegal immigrants? All these aliens that are here, all 11 million of them, should we get rid of all of them? What do you think, America? Well, here's what America thinks. Here's what America told CNN about Trump's massive deportation plan.
Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive.
All right, look at that. 56% in 9 years. In 9 years, 56% of Americans say, yeah, get rid of them all. Get rid of all of them. 56%. That's a majority. That includes Democrats. That includes a lot of Democrats. A lot of Democrats, most Republicans are saying get rid of all illegal immigrants. They're illegal. They should not be here. Send them home. Nobody wants Kilmar Abrego Garcia in this country. The majority of Americans don't want him in this country. Donald Trump and the DOJ don't want him in this country. Patty Morin and a bunch of Marylanders don't want him in this country. Even his own wife, who they've been parading around on television with his child and his father, whatever, his own wife doesn't really want anything to do with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And we know that because Pam Bondi went on, I think it was Fox News yesterday, and she itemized. She made a whole list. She just itemized every single horrible thing this guy has done, including beating his wife.
This is an extremely disturbing case. And as a career prosecutor, it is even more disturbing. Every American tonight should be thanking Donald Trump for making America safer by getting this guy out of our country. I'm going to call him a terrorist because he has been designated as a member of a terrorist organization. So this illegal alien terrorist came into our country illegally in March of 2012. We know that because he admitted that when he was stopped in 2019 by the anti-gang squad. They stopped him at a Home Depot with 3 other members. And here's what's very important. He was wearing a sweatshirt with gang insignia on it. The guy he was with, another MS-13 known member, had a tattoo with very similar insignia on it. ICE declared him as a member of MS-13. The police officers, the gang unit, declared him as a member of MS-13. And also, they independently went to a reliable, confidential informant who said not only is he a member of MS-13, he gave them the clique, the Westerns, and he was called a Chicayo, which is one of the higher-ranking MS-13 members. So they rightfully detained him, rightfully. An immigration judge agreed. An appellate immigration judge agreed. Now, here's where it gets even more frightening. In 2021, his girlfriend previously, his wife at the time, who he had married in jail after he'd gotten numerous tickets, didn't show up for court. He marries her in jail. She has a baby with him. And as a career domestic violence prosecutor, too, I know it takes a lot for any woman to come into court and say they're a victim of domestic violence. This woman came into court twice, getting a restraining order against him, saying it's horrific. He had beaten her. He had punched her in the eye. He had ripped her clothes off. What causes a young mother to do this? Her child was with her.
Yeah. So this guy is a gang member. He's illegal. He's beating his wife. She came to court twice to get a restraining order. Donald Trump goes, all right, you know what? Let's help everybody out here. We'll get the gang member out of the country. We'll get him back home to El Salvador because, again, he shouldn't be here anyway. He's here illegally. And also, he's beating his wife up. He's punching her in the eye. He's ripping her clothes off. She went to the court twice for relief. 2 times she went to get a restraining order against this guy. You think she's sad that he's gone? I don't know, maybe she misses some of the money that was coming in from whatever he was doing, but I don't think she misses him. A woman doesn't go twice to a court to get a restraining order for a guy that's beating her up and then shed a tear when he gets sent to a maximum security prison in El Salvador. I'm just saying, I wouldn't if I were her. This whole story is just more and more bizarre. What's his name? Harrison Fields was on yesterday with Jesse Waters, and he goes, look, not only do we have a rap sheet on this guy, but the media continues to protect him and say the most egregious things about his criminal behavior. Listen to this.
The media has zero credibility. And I'll tell you this, when we talked about Rachel Morin earlier today and MS-13, a USA Today reporter came into my office in the West Wing and said, the evidence that Caroline Levitt mentioned, is that the only 2 things that you can point to? And I said, are you kidding me? Are you out of your mind? That's the only 2 things. He's a woman beater. That's USA Today.
I mean, we have a stack of papers so high from detectives and from judges in Maryland, a blue state, on Garcia. It'll make your eyes bleed.
I mean, they got the USA Today reporter walks up to Harrison Fields at the White House and says, okay, so he beat his wife a couple times and she got a restraining order. Is that all you have? And then they wonder why we say they're just disgusting. Disgusting, terrible, horrible individuals. Awful, awful people. The media. Puh, I don't even like to say the word. Legacy media, as our friends at Newsmax call them, because there is alternative new media. It's the legacy media. They're the worst ones. The new media, they're kind of, we're cool. We're all cool. Hey, speaking of cool, I would just like to say thank you so much. Look at this. Farm Life 2012 on Rumble just dropped a Rumble rant for $20 and wrote, knock, knock, who's there? Kilmar. Kilmar who? Let me in so I can kill more people. Now, again, I don't know that he's actually killed any. I don't know that he's a murderer. I haven't seen that on his rap sheet, but nonetheless, that's very witty. Farm Life 2012. Thank you so much for the Rumble rant. We do appreciate it. We appreciate you taking the time to share and invest in the show, because look, we are speaking of legacy media versus independent media. The independent media, a lot more people enjoy the independent media. A lot more people get stuff from the independent media, and we don't have to worry about, placating, I don't know, any kind of hierarchy or any kind of corporate parent. We can just say what we want and talk about what we want and report on what we want, and you guys can watch it. But without corporate parents, we are looking for other ways to support ourselves and our programming. So if you enjoy this and you're on Rumble and you want to leave a Rumble rant, we would 100% appreciate it, just like we appreciate Farm Life 2012 for that, for the $20 Rumble rant, and also the very hilarious knock knock joke. Now, you also, I should point out, you don't need to share a knock knock joke, but you're more than welcome to. You can, in fact, if you're going to drop $20 on the Rumble rants, you can say whatever you want. Also, we right now have a goal set on our YouTube channel for YouTube. I'll give a shout out for any of the super chats. So if you would like to leave a super chat of $5 or more, you will get a shout out on our YouTube channel. We have that goal going for the entirety of the program. And like I said, we will take some time. It may not be immediate. I may have to wait and pause. I may have to find a good moment to interject what I'm saying to say thank you, but I do promise that I will say thank you for any and all Rumble rants that we get, and for any of the super chats that come in for the rest of the show. So thank you again for all the support. And speaking of support, no one supports us more than our sponsors. And one of our biggest sponsors is Colonial Metals Group, where you can make your savings bulletproof and you can secure your financial future with gold. Gold has never been a better investment. In fact, I have a story that I could go off on, but it'll take too long. I'll tell it another day. But Colonial Metals Group, they're offering all Kayetriots. If you're a Kayetriot, if you're watching or listening to Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, they're offering you a free gold guide where you can learn the legit facts about gold and precious metal investing and how it'll secure your future. It's free. You don't pay anything for it. You get the gold guide. You read all about it. If you're interested, you can reach out to Colonial Metals. I would recommend it because they, in my humble opinion, Paul Stone's a stand-up guy. He's really looking to help you. And there's a limited time offer on qualifying accounts of $7,500, up to $7,500 in free silver. Where else are you going to get free silver? Probably, I don't even know. But I would definitely go to freegoldguide.com/KAYE to secure your free gold guide right now. freegoldguide.com/KAYE. That's my last name. And you can get your free gold guide. Also, the link is in the description of this video. Should you have trouble finding it or not remember it, just click the link in this video. It'll take you right there to get your free gold guide from Paul Stone and Colonial Metals Group. All right, let's get to World War III here. World War III. This is a headline that I couldn't believe was coming from the New York Times because it seemed fair and also accurate. And those two things just don't vibe. I'm like, wait a minute. The New York Times is reporting. It's positive. In the, it's a positive depiction of President Donald Trump. And again, something I believe is fair and accurate. And if it weren't trending on X early this morning, I wouldn't have believed it. But here's what they wrote. Trump waved off Israeli strike after divisions emerged in his administration. Now, what they're really saying is President Donald Trump saved lives. President Donald Trump averted a war. President Donald Trump stopped the beginning of World War III, something that every Democrat for decades now, or a decade now, has said Donald Trump would be the key component in beginning. Donald Trump was supposed to cause World War III the day he took office, the first time. Not only did he not cause World War III, but we had massive peace. Now, again, Donald Trump, this guy's supposed to be a warmonger. World War III is supposed to be well underway. We're not supposed to have peace anywhere. He's not supposed to call off attacks by Israel. He's supposed to be encouraging them. But what Donald Trump did was he saved lives, not just in Iran, but Trump waved off Israeli strike after divisions emerged in his administration. Israel developed plans for attacking Iranian nuclear facilities that would have required U.S. assistance, but some administration officials had doubts. The article goes on to say Israel had planned to strike Iranian nuclear sites as soon as next month, but was waved off by President Trump in recent weeks in favor of negotiating a deal with Tehran to limit its nuclear program, according to administration officials and others briefed on the discussion. So that's interesting. President Donald Trump, instead of just bombing the crap out of Iran or allowing Israel to bomb the crap out of Iran, said, you know what? Let's try diplomacy. Wow. And the New York Times is reporting that. Very interesting. Mr. Trump, it's president, by the way. D-bags. Mr. Trump, sorry. It's like irksome to me that they still call him Mr. Trump. Call him Mr. President to his face. Call him President Trump in print. Is it that difficult? Is it that? This is again one of the reasons why I still can't believe that this is a news organization that I actually believe. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Mr. Trump made his decision after months of internal debate over whether to pursue diplomacy or support Israel in seeking to set back Iran's ability to build a bomb at a time when Iran has been weakened militarily and economically. The debate highlighted fault lines between historically hawkish American cabinet officials and other aides more skeptical that a military assault on Iran could destroy the country's nuclear ambitions and avoid a larger war. It resulted in a rough consensus for now against military action, with Iran signaling a willingness to negotiate. Israeli officials had recently developed plans to attack Iranian nuclear sites in May. They were prepared to carry them out and at times were optimistic that the United States would sign off. The goal of the proposals, according to officials briefed on them, was to set back Tehran's ability to develop a nuclear weapon by a year or more. I mean, dude, if you're going to bomb them, you should knock them back to the Stone Ages, but I digress. For now, Mr. Trump has chosen diplomacy over military action. Now, it doesn't say who in his administration was against it, but I imagine Tulsi Gabbard probably against it. I imagine a couple of other people were probably against it. And the important thing is that President Donald Trump, at the end of the day, averted a war. He averted World War III. He averted more nuclear clashes in the Middle East. And he averted, all kinds of things that typically would result in escalated violence. And the weirdest thing is the New York Times is writing an article about it. That was the most bizarre thing. That was the most bizarre thing to me. One more thing I did want to mention about Chris Van Hollen before we move on to the Fed. So Chris Van Hollen made this trip, which was basically pointless. He took a trip to El Salvador. It didn't result in anything. His social media posts were horrible. He just looks like an idiot. He wasn't even able to see the prisoner that he wanted to see. Everyone back here at home is saying this tool is out there fighting for an illegal criminal and ignoring a woman here at home who lost her daughter in his state, who he won't even acknowledge. I mean, if this is the Democrat platform for 2028, I say bring it on. Bring it on. We will, if this is the Democrat platform for 2026, forget about it. We are going to keep the House. We're going to pick up a whole bunch of Senate seats, probably a bunch of governor's mansions. It's going to be I'm really excited for the future of the Republican Party if the Democrats are going to be fighting tooth and nail for the rights of illegal aliens, not only here in the United States of America, but ones that have already been deported and doing whatever they can to bring them back. But the question remains, and the question I always asked is now being asked by other people, and that was who the heck paid for this trip? Because, when it's official business, there is a slush fund of government money that representatives in Congress and senators and other, officials can tap into. There is a slush fund that they can get into and they can go and they can pay for their trips and their hotels and their airfare and whatever else they have if they're on some kind of official business. And I imagine that, I don't know what a flight to El Salvador costs. I imagine it's not cheap, especially, round trip and short notice, that kind of thing. He had transportation to and from the airport. We know that because he was doing stupid social media posts to and from the airport in his Uber. And then he was at a hotel, I imagine, for a couple days. He had to go back and forth to the palace. I'm sure he got some money, got some food rather. Maybe he bought some tchotchkes for his staff. Who knows what he did? But this was clearly a trip that was funded by somebody. And my question is always, who's paying for this? Because don't forget, this is the era of DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, and we do not want waste, fraud, or abuse. And this trip to El Salvador seems wasteful to me. It seems fraudulent because this guy has no power to do anything. Also, he didn't do anything. And it's abusive because it flies right in the face of President Donald Trump's authority to put forward the foreign policy and the law and order and the immigration policy of the United States of America. I mean, no senator can usurp any president's authority, nor should a senator be sitting down with the vice president of another country without notifying the White House or the State Department or anyone else first. In fact, he may have violated the law, which we'll get to in just a minute. But I'm more interested at this moment about who paid for this. And so is apparently the Daily Caller. Because they wrote, Senator Chris Van Hollen's trip to El Salvador likely paid for by the taxpayers. Duh. No congressperson, no senator, no government official does anything that isn't paid for by the taxpayers. And if you're looking at this guy going, what are you doing? Why are you going there? He's not paying for it on his own. He's paying for it with your money. Maryland taxpayers are paying. He's a senator, so it could be everybody. We could all be paying for this trip. This is a waste of money. Waste, fraud, and abuse. This is him using taxpayer money on a publicity stunt that he thought was going to elevate him to a higher level so that maybe, I don't know, maybe he'd be vice president. Ooh, wouldn't that be exciting? That's what they're looking for. That's what's happening now. They know that, like, Chris Van Hollen's not going to be president of the United States. Chris Van Hollen's not going to be the guy that's going to topple whoever President Donald Trump chooses to succeed him in 2028. Or if Donald Trump finds a way around that pesky 22nd Amendment, if Donald Trump runs again for a third term, Chris Van Hollen's not going to be the guy that's going to... I'm shocked that Chris Van Hollen was able to get elected in the first place, but he did. He's not going to be president, but you know what he could be? He could be vice president. AOC or Bernie Sanders or one of these other clowns that thinks they're good enough for the job of being president of the United States. They're going to be looking around for some kind of senator or governor from a somewhat blue state who's done something, who's worked diligently and done something effectively to help one of their pet projects. And one of their pet projects is, helping and placating illegal immigrants. And no one would be better suited than the guy that goes and gets Kilmar Abrego Garcia out of Seco and brings him back to Maryland. That's what Chris Van Hollen was hoping for. He doesn't care about this guy. He doesn't care about the guy's family. He doesn't care about his constituents. If he did, he would have been with Patty Morin at the White House, mourning the loss of her daughter at the hands of an illegal criminal. He wasn't. He was on a taxpayer-funded journey to El Salvador. Democratic Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen's trip to El Salvador to try to secure the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a deported illegal alien, was likely funded by taxpayers. 6 individuals familiar with congressional travel tell the Daily Caller. 3 Senate aides and 1 former aide told the Caller that they believe the trip was likely a congressional member delegation, a CODEL, which refers to an official visit abroad by members of Congress and their staff. Such trips are paid for with federal government resources. Gotta be, said one high-level Senate aide when asked if they believe taxpayers foot the bill for the Van Hollen's travel. A former senior congressional aide said zero doubt the senator either paid out of the office MRA, members representational allowance, or paid personally and will get reimbursed as an official travel expense. And that's the other thing, too. They'll say to you, oh, here's the thing, Chris Van Hollen or anybody, let's say they want to do something like this. They buy a ticket, they get their hotel room, they do whatever, they go on the trip, and then they come back and they go, I paid out of my own pocket. And then like a month later, somebody comes to him and goes, hey, do you have any receipts? He's like, oh, yeah, here, let me give you my plane ticket and my hotel for that trip I took to El Salvador, where I tried to spring that guy from prison. And then they get reimbursed. So he'll come out and say, no, I paid for this out of my own pocket. And then 3 months later, he'll get a check from you, the taxpayer, reimbursing him for all of that stuff. He's keeping all the receipts, and then he gets his money back. Either way, you're paying for it. He's not. Van Hollen flew to El Salvador on Wednesday morning in a bid to get the country's government to release Abrego Garcia. He was deported and sent to the Seacoast prison despite an immigration judge issuing a withholding of removal, blah, 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 blah. Court documentation and a gang field interview sheet released by the Department of Justice, blah, 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 blah. Okay, anyway, if I had to bet this trip was funded with taxpayer dollars, regardless, it's insane that Democrats are more concerned about illegal immigrant gang members being sent home than their constituents' safety, one Senate aide said. So there seems to be, here's another one. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Van Hollen's little PR stunt to support an illegal alien was actually paid for by hardworking Americans. Democrats like Van Hollen are more outraged by a justified deportation than they are by horrific crimes committed by criminal illegals in the U.S. This little trip is a perfect example of why Americans overwhelmingly voted for President Donald Trump. It's also a perfect example of why Americans overwhelmingly support deporting. What is wrong? That's why they overwhelmingly support deporting.
Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive.
Did you see, by the way, how when he said all have come a long way, he pushed to the right?
The majority, the American people have come a long way on this issue.
And a long way, and he pushes off to the right because he knows that the American people are right about this issue and many others. 56% of Americans say, get them all out of here. Garcia, whoever, get them all out of here. Send them all back. If El Salvador is willing to take them all, we should send them all. That's exactly what we should be doing, because we have to make America safer. We have to make America stronger, and we're not going to make America safer or stronger if we've got illegal criminals running around murdering people, shoving them into storm drains. That's just not the way. That's not safer. That's the opposite of what's that? Oh yeah, more dangerous. That's what that is. And the interesting thing about this poll, let me pull this back up for one more second here.
All undocumented.
Look at this. This is from 2016. It was 38%. And 2025, it's 56%. All right. What's different about 2016 to 2025? 2016, President Donald Trump was he was running for office. He was coming into office. He was building a wall. 4 years of President Donald Trump, 4 years of Joe Biden. What happened in between? Joe Biden reversed every single immigration plan that Donald Trump put in place, and we had a ridiculous amount. I mean, millions and millions of illegal immigrants just infiltrate our country. They just advanced on our border, and many people say it was an invasion. And as a result, Donald Trump got reelected, and now look at that. The majority of people, they want all these people gone. They want to go back to what happened before Joe Biden. They want to erase any memory of Joe Biden's policies. They want to erase those 4 years from memory because they were so bad, not just for our country, but for them personally. And it's not just immigration. It's also the economy. And President Donald Trump is fed up with the Fed, specifically Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. President Donald Trump on Truth Social yesterday, very upset with Jerome Powell's new report. The ECB, hold on, wait, let me show you this. This is fancy. Where's my little fancy? There it is. Donald J. Trump, the ECB is expected to cut interest rates for the 7th time, and yet too late. Jerome Powell of the Fed, who was always too late and wrong yesterday, issued a report which was another and typical complete mess. Oil prices are down, groceries, even eggs are down, and the USA is getting rich on tariffs. Too late should have lowered interest rates like the ECB long ago, but he should certainly lower them now. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. That's President Trump on Truth Social. Powell's termination. Here, I can underline it. Wait, hold on. I have the power. Look at that. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough, says President Donald Trump. So he's lashing out at Fed Chief Jerome Powell again. And rightly so, because I mean, look, the Fed is one of those, it's one of those weird things that I guess in its time, everyone thought was a great idea, but now we all realize is just horrible. And having an independent agency, independent from government oversight, manipulating our economy and manipulating our trends and manipulating our inflation rates and interest rates and everything else, it just seems dumb. Like, why would it? I mean, if you abolish the Fed, which a lot of people are calling for, not just firing Jerome Powell, but abolishing the Federal Reserve System, getting rid of it altogether. If you do that, man, you unleash American economic exceptionalism like there's nobody's business. And you won't have these fluctuations. You won't have these bulls and these bears. You won't have these wild swings that you have in the. You won't have any person or group entity of people being able to manipulate the markets, or the dollar, or the value of the dollar, or what your interest rate is going to be, or whether or not the housing market is going to bubble up or burst. And that's exactly what it is. And a lot of folks are saying, in fact, I want to say it was, what's his name? The British guy with the cool accent. He had on an expert about this they talked about the Fed, whether or not Donald Trump could fire Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, because that's always a big question, and what the effects on the economy would be. And it all seems positive.
Can Trump fire the Fed chair?
Well, if you ask the founders of this country, the question would be absolutely right. He can fire the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Treasury. He should absolutely be allowed to fire the Fed chair if the Fed chair is not doing a good job. Stuart, here's the truth. Last year, Gallup did a survey, and they found that only 4% of Americans had a great deal of confidence in Jerome Powell to do the right thing for the economy. If this guy ran for office, he'd be thrown out overnight. The truth of the matter is that Jerome Powell has done an awful job. He was too late to respond to the rising prices in 2021 and 2022. We had 9% inflation. He bears the burden, and President Trump is right to call him out for it.
Did Jerome Powell lower rates right before the election? Was that to help the Democrats? Was he political?
It looks like it was awfully political. And the truth of the matter is there weren't the economic fundamentals to support lowering rates right before the election. If there were, they wouldn't have changed their tune the second President Trump won and said, wait, never mind, we don't want to do that anymore. Remember, this is the same Federal Reserve that Jerome Powell's deputy, Bill Dudley of the New York Fed, said in 2019 that the Fed should consider the way its monetary policy could affect the election outcome in 2020. If that's what they're saying publicly, Stuart, imagine what they're contemplating behind the scenes. The president deserves to have people that represent his economic vision for the country. That's Scott Bessent, that's Howard Lutnick, and if Jerome Powell is going to obfuscate, is going to be recalcitrant and frustrate President Trump's agenda, he should be terminated.
By the way, that's a lot of big words. That's a lot of big obfuscate, recalcitrate. Oh, that's a lot of, those are some Harvard words there. Those are $2 billion words right there. But the point of the matter is, and he brings up another excellent point. Not only does the Fed manipulate our currency, not only does it manipulate our lending rates, not only does it manipulate the dollar and the interest rates, it manipulates elections. Because what happens? What did Bill Clinton say? It's the economy, stupid. That's exactly right. It's the economy, stupid. If the economy is good, if people are paying less for stuff, if they have more money in their bank account, if they can buy a house or afford a home, or if they're getting better rates on their mortgage, whatever it is, if the economy is good, whoever's in power is going to stay in power. And if the economy, there's going to be a change of power at the top. The presidency, the Senate, whoever's in charge of the country right now, they're going to lose that power because it's all about the money. It's all about the almighty dollar. It's the economy. And so what happened when Joe Biden was president? He was horrible at it. He was awful. Everybody hated everything. Crime was surging. Inflation was on the rise. The border was awful. There's war in Ukraine. Our money's being sent out all over the place. We're locked down. Black Lives Matter. It's crazy. There's masks everywhere. They're forcing people to get injections, or they're throwing them out of the military. It was awful. You could have written a worse movie. But the economy, they felt, with a little bit of a boost, could have helped him or Kamala, or whoever else was going to be on the ticket, get another term in office. So what did Jerome Powell, who, by the way, was appointed by President Donald Trump, but that doesn't mean a thing because Donald Trump made some really bad appointments in his first administration. Jeff Sessions, for example, a couple of others who shall remain nameless. But Jerome Powell was he turned it political. He didn't want Donald Trump coming back. Donald Trump didn't like him. Donald Trump spoke out against him all the time. Donald Trump was not a fan of Jerome Powell, and therefore Jerome Powell was not a fan of Donald Trump. So what did he do? He used his power to lower interest rates, to increase the economy a little bit just before the election so that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or whoever they decided to put on the ticket could win. And it didn't work, but it was 100% a political operation to interfere in an election. That's another reason why the Fed should be eliminated. The federal government, the fact that the federal government has this massive bank that controls basically everything is ridiculous. The fact that we give that much power to an entity that the voters have we have no say in it. Listen, and people say, can Donald Trump fire the Fed chair? In fact, let's go back to the New York Times. Trump lashes out at Fed chair for not cutting rates. Jerome Powell has said that the Federal Reserve can be patient as the effects of tariffs become more clear. President Trump, who is pushing for interest rate cuts, said Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. President Trump lashed out on Thursday at Jerome Powell. Mr. Trump's ire remarks followed Mr. Powell on Wednesday when he warned in a speech that the president's tariffs could create a challenging scenario for the central bank by putting its two main goals, stable inflation and a healthy labor market, in tension. Mr. Powell reiterated that the Fed could afford to be patient with its interest rate decisions until it had more clarity about Mr. Trump's policies, meaning they're not going to lower interest rates. Donald Trump is creating jobs. Donald Trump is trying to create opportunity. Donald Trump is bringing in massive wealth with the tariffs. And as a result, he's also going to be paying off a lot of the debt. And when you pay off the debt, you're going to have a ton more power economically, militarily, in negotiations. It's going to be better for the American taxpayer. And when that happens, you are going to see an incredible country. But lowering the interest rates on top of all of that, well, that would just be the perfect storm of economic excellence. Jerome Powell doesn't want that. He wants the Fed to remain patient with its interest rate decisions until it has more clarity on whether Donald Trump's tariff plan will work. And that infuriates Donald Trump. And the fact of the matter is that Jerome Powell is an unelected official. And yes, I know that all the cabinet members and appointees are unelected officials, but Donald Trump, as we heard in that clip, has the power to fire people. If Donald Trump says to the people, here's what I want to do. I want to make our economy great again. I want to do tariffs. I want you to stop paying income tax. In fact, President Donald Trump earlier today or yesterday, his new big thing is, I don't want any income taxes on anyone making less than 150 grand. If you make a less than 150 grand, Donald Trump says zero taxes for you. But that requires external revenue, and that requires tariffs. And if we have external revenue and we have tariffs and they're coming in, then that's great for our country. And if we have lower interest rates and people are buying more homes and they're investing in America and they're buying property and we're building more stuff, if all of that happens, that's also fantastic news. That's really great for America. It's bad for the Fed chair. And so Donald Trump may or may not have the power to fire the Fed chair. It may have to go to the Supreme Court, but the people have the power to pick the president. The president, picked by the people, should have the power to pick the people who make these important decisions. He can fire the Secretary of Defense if he doesn't like what he's doing. He can fire the Secretary of the Treasury if he doesn't like what he's doing. Can he fire the Fed chief? That's a big question. Axios broke it down and said President Trump's latest social media tirade against Fed Chair Jerome Powell is raising the possibility of an unprecedented and experts say prohibited use of executive power. Trump may want to remove the country's most powerful economic policymaker, but it won't be easy as telling him you're fired. He'd likely need an assist from the Supreme Court. Some of its conservative justices have already signaled they're open to providing. The Federal Reserve Act, which established the Fed more than a century ago, spells out that the central bank's governors are to serve 14-year terms. They can only be dismissed for cause, which courts have generally interpreted to mean malfeasance, not policy disputes. I'm going to be honest with you. I would say malfeasance plays a part here, especially with what happened over the last 4 years. There's a Humphreys decision. We don't want to go back into that. But basically what would happen is the Supreme Court and a couple of justices have already said, Clarence Thomas, Justice Alito, they said this whole Humphreys thing was ridiculous. Yeah, Donald Trump should 100% have the ability to fire the Fed chief if necessary. And Donald Trump thinks it's necessary. So you could see a Supreme Court battle brewing here in just a minute. And it could be a battle that President Donald Trump is ripe and ready to win, depending on which side of the bed Amy Coney Barrett decides to wake up on. If Amy Coney Barrett decides to wake up on the conservative side of the bed, which we all thought she was on, we thought her bed just had one side. Apparently it does not. Apparently she's got the conservative side and she's got the liberal side. We have to figure out which side she woke up on, and then maybe Donald Trump will get his way All right, so hold on. I'm getting a breaking update. Eric Daughtry just posted this on X. Breaking tragic update after FSU shooting. 5 dead, 4 others injured. 2 shooters involved. 1 in custody. The other is dead. Sad. Let's see if there's more information we can get on this. I don't want to get too many. I don't want to get too many graphic images if there are some. Let's see. Update: at least 5 dead, 4 injured in shooting at Florida State University. Reporters stating 2 shooters with 1 in custody and the other dead. The scene is still listed as an active shooter situation. It is unknown if there are other shooters. Let's see. Classes have been canceled. Yeah, so we're trying to get more updates. There's video of some guy walking by a victim apparently, but we need to, and then of course you've got CBS News already trying to take away people's guns. As a result, the Tallahassee Memorial Health is treating 4 victims. So there were 4 victims at the hospital. There are 5 fatalities. Again, one of the shooters, they believe, is one of the fatalities. And then there's FDLE is actively engaged in the incident on FSU's campus, and we will update the public with more information. Ron DeSantis, our prayers are with the FSU families, and state law enforcement is actively responding. We're going to see. Let's listen.
Florida have been known for some time. There was a school shooting in 2018 in Parkland, Florida. There, the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, not a school, but a mass shooting in 2020. These incidents continue to recur in Florida, and we know from our CBS News reporting just down the street in Tallahassee this week, the state legislature was considering legislation to pull back some gun control measures in Florida, including measures to keep guns out of the hands of people under 21.
That's just disgusting. Those news people are disgusting. Anyway, that's the latest. That's the latest on that. And like I said, we'll be covering. That's sad to see. We're hopefully we pray for everybody and we make sure that everybody is. It's going to be. Oh, here we go. Kash Patel has released a statement. My team and I have been briefed on the tragic shooting at Florida State, and our FBI Jacksonville team is on the ground assisting. We will provide full support to local law enforcement as needed. Please keep the FSU community in your prayers. So, local team from the FBI, and by the way, the FBI Jacksonville building is really close to the to Mar-a-Lago, and they're right down from Kayetriot HQ is here, and the FBI building is very, very close by. So that is they're all on the way now to FSU to try to help out with that situation. And the Jacksonville, I don't know I guess because we're located kind of, on I-95, Jacksonville always helps out with, I remember the Pulse nightclub shooting. I have a good friend who works for the FBI here in Jacksonville, and he was on scene with the Pulse nightclub shooting when that happened. He was on scene with other incidents in Florida. So I imagine the Jacksonville FBI, for whatever reason, is central, and they travel to any of these other places that need to be. All right, let's see. First, there's still more video of these guys running with guns. It looks like this is law enforcement running with weapons. And this video clearly taken by some student who was locked down or in a classroom. I'm trying to see what other video we have. This was video that just was from a ways away, and it just shows people running. And you can hear the sirens in the background. That's always scary. Yeah, just a short video there. What else do we have? I'm just going through right now to see what, that's all me. Let me go back here and see what we have for, as in the way of FSU. And again, like I said, there's a lot going on today, but this is close to home for us here in Florida. It was in the student union area. That's the other thing we should report. So I guess the student union is like, where they have the restaurants and kids go to study and stuff like that. Here's just some video. It looks like families gathered around, people gathered around students standing on the street while they're waiting to see what happens. We did see this video earlier of some students who were being carried out. Let's see. FSU alerts going out. Yeah, so no new information yet, other than tragically the 5 deaths. So anyway, like I said, I'll keep an eye on that. But in the meantime, look, we have a whole bunch of people out there who are still complaining about President Donald Trump trying to keep us safe by deporting illegal immigrants. We have I mean, and Donald Trump, it's not just the illegal immigrants. He's also trying to get people like these shooters, people like these mass murderers, people that commit these crimes. He's trying to get them out of this country too. He's trying to send them to El Salvador. If you think that the American penal system isn't one of the reasons why we have such crime in this country, it's just crazy. The American penal system is it's so bad when we offer people that go to prison free education, when we offer them training, when we offer them all these liberal outlets to try to rehabilitate themselves, when we try to cut down recidivism with just turning these places into Club Med, that doesn't happen. If the term easy piece of time, I don't know if you've ever heard a criminal talk about, that was an easy piece of time. That was in a movie. I think, that was an easy piece of time. An easy piece of time. There should be no such thing. Any time that you spend in a prison should be the worst time in your life. It should be hard. It should be disruptive. It should be bad. It should be something that you never want to repeat. And therefore, you are on the straight and narrow. It should be something like what happens in El Salvador. And that is why President Donald Trump is saying, look, we are going to do everything that we possibly can. We are going to make sure that these illegal immigrants are in El Salvador in a maximum security prison where they are not being treated like they're at a resort. And if there's any Americans who are just the worst of the worst, gangbangers, serial killers, mass shooters, any of these things, those people, Donald Trump is also investigating sending to El Salvador so that they can take care of them, because clearly El Salvador knows what's up. And if we can put a bunch of our thugs, our bad people on a plane and send them to El Salvador and post videos of them getting their heads shaved and being thrown in cages and never being seen or heard from again, if we can do that, then guess what? Crime in this country will go down drastically. I do want to check in here at the White House for just a minute with the Italian Prime Minister, but first, Italian President, pardon me, we do have some super chats that came in, and I wanted to thank our super chatters from YouTube. Hatchet Outdoors. Hatchet Outdoors wrote, Mark, please look into Men's Alliance and give them a shout out. We are Christians trying to help other men. Iron sharpens iron as man sharpens man. I like that. Hatchet Outdoors, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. We really do appreciate it. And shout out to the Men's Alliance, men sharpening men. Just like iron sharpens irons. That's a great one. Thank you so much. We also have a super chat from Jennifer Lawson, $20. Oh, oops. Jennifer Lawson, thank you so much. We appreciate that. No message, just, throwing it out there, just supporting the show. Jennifer Lawson, that your generosity does not go unnoticed, and we do appreciate that very much. We do appreciate it very much. We want you to know that we do appreciate it, and we are very thankful for everybody on YouTube who sends us super chats and supports the show in any way, shape, or form. And there is still time if you would like a super chat, if you want a shout out. And look, as you can tell by Hatchet Outdoors Men's Alliance shout out, we'll read it. Whatever it says, we'll read it as long as it's not profane. So you just go ahead and pop it up there. Rumble rants as well too. We'll be able to pop those on the screen and give you a thank you as well. Let's get back here real quick to the White House, because like I said, President Donald Trump is saying that every country is coming forward. They all want to work with the White House. They all want to work with the White House, and they all want to make sure that they're getting the best bargain they can. They want to make sure that they are getting everything they need from the United States of America. And they don't want to be the last at the table, because they know that being last at the table means you're going to get the scraps. This is Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni from Italy, and she's at the White House, and she's there with President Donald Trump, and she's here to negotiate tariffs for Italy so that, our olive oil isn't too expensive. She wants to make sure that we continue to buy, Italian Chianti and mozzarella and all the other great things from their country. Also, let me see what else. Oh, wait, what is this? This is not what I want. Where is it here? I just lost it. And then they had a little meeting and they talked about tariffs. And then Donald Trump sat and took questions, as he usually does, from the media. And I'm just rolling. This was happening while we were live. Here we go. This was from their meeting. Reporter, this week we saw Chinese President Xi Jinping visit with 3 of our allies. Should you be worried? I think I know Donald Trump's response, but let's play it. Let's play it here anyway.
that you aren't worried about allies growing closer to China as a result of your tariffs. And this week we saw Chinese President Xi Jinping visit with 3 of our allies. Should you be worried that they're growing closer?
No.
Nobody
can compete with us. Nobody.
You said that you have a relationship with President Xi. Why not pick up the phone and call him and make a deal?
Oh, we're going to make a deal. We'll have a deal. I think we're going to make a very good deal with China.
Do you plan to reach out to him and call him?
I think that you will see we'll make a very good deal with China.
All right, so Donald Trump saying, look, we're going to make a deal with China. Xi Jinping, he's playing the same game Donald Trump's playing with, but Donald Trump's playing to win. And you know, China's the only opponent we have when it comes to tariffs. All of this is being done. China's our largest trading partner. We buy more things from China than anyone else. China sells us more things than anything else. So look, we know we can get stuff elsewhere. It may be more expensive, but China can't sell as much crap to other countries as they sell to us. There are not 14 Walmarts anywhere else in any other city in the world other than here in the United States of America. The Chinese economy relies on the United States and their ability to reach our consumers. And Xi Jinping knows that, and so does President Donald Trump. And that's why there will be a deal to be made. And that's why China's the only, all of these reciprocal tariffs all over the world, it all comes down to China. And all we want to know is what is happening with China. What is the deal going to be with China? And at the end of the day, that's where we're going to decide if we win or lose. Here's President Donald Trump talking about Meloni.
I do like her very much. I think she's a great prime minister. I think she's doing a fantastic job in Italy. We were very proud of her. I knew her right from the beginning. I knew her as a very early prime minister, and I knew she had great talent. She's one of the real leaders of the world, and I'm very proud to be with her. I can't do better than that, right?
By the way, you may remember her. Look at how much fun he's having. You may remember her because she's the one that helped Joe Biden when he was about to. Joe Biden was about to wander. He was at the G7 or whatever. Joe Biden was about to wander off into the woods, and she's the one that stopped him and turned him around and brought him back to civilization.
As you know, we've had numerous talks, very, very at the highest level, frankly, with other countries. Yeah, we're doing very well, and we're moving along on trade very well. The United States was ripped off and taken advantage of by every country in the world, practically. I mean, I have to say practically, but just about everyone. That's not going to happen anymore, but we're going to make fair deals.
We're not going to get ripped off. We're going to make fair deals. We're going to be exceptional again. We're going to have massive income again. We're going to use the money to pay down the national debt. We're going to make America richer. We're going to abolish taxes on anyone making less than $150,000 a year. That's the goal. We're going to have no tax on tips. We're going to have no tax on Social Security. That's the goal. And all of this boils down to the strong leadership of President Donald Trump's administration and him never backing down.
You have to understand we're getting right now 25% on cars, 25% on steel, 25% on aluminum. We're getting a 10% baseline. We took that down just because it was, the appropriate thing to do until we decide what the number will be. And we're, taking in a lot of money, which we've never done before, frankly. With Biden, we were losing a fortune on trade. But we're moving along very nicely, and we're going to end up with a baseline of a substantial number, which we never got anything. The United States never got anything until I came along, and then I put very substantial tariffs on China, if you remember. And we took in hundreds of billions of dollars.
So Donald Trump saying, look, we're taking the money in. It's all working. Everything we said was going to happen, it's all happening. It's all happening. Oh, here he is. He was briefed on the Florida State. All right, let's hear President Donald Trump talk about what happened at Florida State. This was just in moments ago.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I've been briefed on the Florida State University, Tallahassee, active shooting. I guess it's an active shooter. Fully briefed as to where we are right now. It's a shame. It's a horrible thing. Horrible that things like this take place. And we'll have more to say about it later.
Yeah, he's not going to comment on it until he gets fully briefed. And then they're talking again about they're in the Oval Office now and they're chit-chatting and now I guess he gets asked. Oh, this is great. He gets asked here about Jerome Powell. You said the termination of Jerome. Well, here, we'll just listen to the.
On Jerome Powell, you said that the termination of Jerome Powell cannot come fast enough. He says he won't leave even if you ask him to.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But I don't think he. I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
I mean, it seems to me like he wants him out. So if I were Jerome Powell, I'd be counting the days. I like that he throws in there that he's slow. He's too late. He's a little slow. And if I want him out of there, he's going to be gone. This is about Russia and Vladimir Putin.
How much longer does Vladimir Putin have to respond to your ceasefire proposal before you put secondary tariffs or sanctions on Russia?
We'll see what that will be. We're going to be hearing from them this week, very shortly, actually, and we'll see. But we want it to stop. We want the death and the killing to stop.
How much longer?
Yeah. So again, Donald Trump. Man, it's amazing how many things are going on at the same time. Focus on tariffs. Here we go. Here he is talking about. And you know what the interesting thing to me is when these world leaders come, like here's Prime Minister Meloni, right? And she's sitting there and she's doing a press conference with President Donald Trump. They're in the Oval Office. They're chit-chatting with the media. And there's a couple questions for her at the outset, but then it immediately just goes to Donald Trump and the 18 other things he's doing. They talk about tariffs. They're talking about Russia. They're talking about China. They're talking about FSU. They're talking about all these things. And she just has to sit there. And this is how all these world leaders are. They come into the White House. They come into the Oval Office. And then they just sit there while Donald Trump holds his press conference. And they just have to act accordingly. Just act interested. Just know that their time is coming. Here he is. Let's listen in and see what he says.
We're doing very well with negotiations, I think, with all countries. And Scott could tell you a little bit, but we are doing very well. We have a lot of countries that want to make a deal. Frankly, they want to make deals more than I do. Go ahead, Scott. Would you say something first?
Yeah, we've got a process in place. We're working on the big 15 economies first. We had a fantastic meeting with Japan yesterday.
Somebody get this guy a microphone, by the way. I mean, I see a microphone. I see the boom right up, but just somebody, come on, mic him.
I believe there's been calls with the EU already. And then we have South Korea coming in next week. And I believe India is also talking. That's moving very quickly.
All right. So he's like, look, we got India coming in. We got South Korea coming in. Japan was here yesterday. Now we've got Italy. It's very, very exciting. Here's them talking about the story we did earlier today about him waving off the Iranian attack against, or the Israeli attack against Iran and their nuclear facilities.
And they say the attack is what?
That you waved off an Israeli plan to attack Iranian nuclear facilities.
I wouldn't say waved off. I'm not in a rush to do it because I think that Iran has a chance to have a great country and to live happily without death. And I'd like to see that. That's my first option. If there's a second option, I think it would be very bad for Iran. And I think Iran is wanting to talk. I hope they're wanting to talk. It's going to be very good for them if they do. And I'd like to see Iran thrive in the future, do fantastically well. I know the Iranian people, they're incredible people. Always have been very smart, very energetic, very successful people. And I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt anybody. I really don't. But Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. It's, pretty simple. It's really simple. We're not looking to take their industry. We're not looking to take their land. All we're saying is you can't have a nuclear weapon.
And if they don't want to negotiate it away, then we'll figure out something else. I'm sure. Listen, it's always an exciting time when you go to the Oval Office with President Donald Trump, no matter what the reason. But you always get great answers to great questions because he takes questions and some presidents never did. Listen, we got another super chat come in that I wanted to share with you. This is from Jeff Tim on YouTube, and he wrote $20, by the way. Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate it. He wrote super chat, run, Mark, run. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Jeff Tim. You know what? Keep the $20 coming, and maybe I'll have an announcement for you very, very soon. Listen, we have so much great stuff. First of all, thank you to all the Kayetriots. Thank you to everybody who watches this show every single day and is involved in this show. Thanks to all of our super chatters on YouTube. Thanks to our Rumble ranters on Rumble. We have a lot of folks throughout the day that visit our YouTube channel and just throw money at us, which is great because it's how you can support the show. And if you can't, make a super chat, I get it. I understand. Bidenomics was horrible for everybody. But just watching Just watching the show, just subscribing, sharing it with other people. There's other ways. If you're like, Mark, I would love to support you monetarily. Here's $1,000. We'll take it. But if you're like, Mark, I can't do that. What can I do? Just, invest a little bit of time. Help us out. Spread the word about Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure you're subscribed. And every time the podcast is downloaded, which is automatic for you, make sure that you are listening to it and sharing it and telling people about it and all that kind of stuff. Because every download, every commercial you listen to, every person you send this to, every time you watch one of our videos, every time you comment, it helps us and it continues to allow us to do what we do, which is bring you the news, bring you the truth. It's not about me. I know all this stuff. I'm doing this for you so that you can, in an entertaining way, I hope, enjoy your daily dose of accuracy, your daily dose of real news and discussion. And, not only the news, but it's news that you can, I don't want to say news you can use because that's just so stupid, but it's news that is accurate, that is truthful, that is real, that is entertaining. And I also try to keep it inspiring. I know there's a lot of bad things that happen. I know there's stories that are not great, but whatever the real media or the fake media rather is telling you, just know that the real media, which is the independent media, not the legacy media, whatever you're hearing from them, let us interpret it for you. And if they say Donald Trump did something bad, odds are he did something good. And what I try to do here is, whether it's with the Fed share or whether it's with the Iranian attack or whether it's with the tariffs, is explain to you how what Donald Trump is doing and what he's attempting to do is actually what he promised you he would do and what you said you wanted done when you voted for him. And the media is so mad that so many people voted for him. They're so mad that they lost. The media is the legacy media, Democrats. Your favorite legacy radio station, all run by liberals. Liberal slant and liberal bias to all that stuff. Your favorite TV stations, news stations in general, anything you read from the New York Times, the Washington Post, they're all liberals. So they're mad at Donald Trump. They're mad that you voted for him en masse. They're mad that 77 million people decided to cast a ballot for Donald Trump, many of them in swing states. They're mad that he won all 7. They're mad that he won the Electoral College, and they're super mad that he won the popular vote. And they're not mad at themselves for running somebody stupid like Kamala Harris. They're not mad at themselves for ripping Joe Biden out of the White House and telling him, guess what? You are not going to be our guy anymore. They're mad at President Donald Trump and the 77 million of us who voted for him. And so they're going to continue to lie. They're going to continue to push propaganda. They're going to continue to fabricate these rumors. And they're going to continue to tell you that Donald Trump is bad for doing exactly what you hired him to do. But the good news is, because of people like me and because of other new media outlets and because of people like you who seek out the new media and who understand that there are alternatives to CNN and MSNBC and NBC, ABC, CBS, and your radio stations that you used to listen to, the power that the people in the podcasts and the live streamers and all of us have to bring you the truth. And we see it in the polling.
Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes.
So Chris Van Hollen and the rest of the Democrats and all these idiots who are trying to tell you that Abrego Garcia is a Maryland man and a father and he's innocent and he deserves to be returned, they're all doing that not because they care or because they like Abrego Garcia. It's not because they love his family. It's because they hate Donald Trump and they hate you for putting him back in the White House. That's why we're here every single day. And like I said, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your support. And don't forget, we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to be every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes even on the weekends. In fact, that's why you need that notification bell hit, because you never know when I'm going to just pop up in your feed and bring you some new info, because it's a constant battle. It's 7 days a week. It's 365. 24/7, 365, whatever you want to call it. We've got to make sure that we're staying sharp. You never know when the next attack's going to come. You never know who it's going to come from. But you are going to be prepared for it, because every single day you come here, we talk together, we learn together, we stay enlightened together, and we train together. Train for that next battle so that not only will we fight, but we will win. and save the Republic. After party in the Kayetriot Club, members only. If you're not a member, no problem. You can join. It's another great way to support the show. Joining the Kayetriot Club gets you something phenomenal. Gets you a package of available nowhere else stickers, gets you access to the after party, soon to become the pre-party, and it gets you a 25% discount in the Mark Kaye shop. So if you're not a member, you can join now. It's only $10 a month, which is like $0 a month, or you can pay for a year up free and you get 2 months free. And I'll let you do the math. Kayetriot Club after party begins in 3 minutes.